Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Soul Arrow. Today we're going to be talking about the supernatural. Hey, so I'm going to come at this video in a much more relaxed way. My reasoning for this is because when I rush in a video, it almost always results in me having to go, yeah, so a bunch of filler words, which are a lot harder to edit out than just speeding the video up or taking out longer gaps. So I'm going to, this time around, take my time. These are deep subjects that we're talking about in Soul Arrow. And so I think it's best that we're willing to sit with them for a little while. You know? Uh, Especially on this episode. Because this episode is about something that's a little bit more serious and closer to people's hearts. And it's one of those things where when mystics talk about this generally to people, they tend to sidestep it. And I think that they do that as a way of not alienating their audience. In my case, I am not enlightened, and so it's not going to be permanently damaging to my reputation as a mystic or as a wizard or whatever if I talk about this subject seriously, because I am not yet where I'm going to be in terms of my magical practice. So 10, 13, 14 years down the line, I'll be a completely different person if my magic carries on in the way that it currently is. And so, because of that, I don't feel bad being honest about this subject. And even if it does affect me down the line, it could only affect me in the sense that I'll be the mystic that says what other mystics I think are actually thinking about this subject. I can't speak for them, but I imagine their interpretation is closer to mine than what most people probably assume their interpretation to be. So, when most people hear me call myself a wizard, I think they naturally jump to the conclusion that I must be a strong believer in the supernatural. Obviously, I believe in ghosts and extraterrestrial beings, astral projection, God, spirits, the devil, etc. Fill in the blank here, whether that be Norse gods or some other version of a non-physical deity. Obviously, I worship the Mother Earth spirit and the Moon spirit and the Sun spirit and this and that and the other. This interpretation is kind of true depending on how you interpret worship and how you interpret believe in, but if I'm being honest, not in the way people think. I don't actually worship anything in the standard religious ways, and I definitely don't believe in the supernatural. Allow me to explain. The word super means expanded, extra, on top of. It's a separation. It is to say that the superior thing is different than the non-superior thing. Super means outside of. Well, nature is everything that exists within the natural order. In other words, the universe itself. The term universe, in turn, means everything. Uni is all. It's all encompassing. So there is no anything outside of the universe. Every dimension of reality is part of the universe. Every part of time, if we discovered time travel and a million different alternate timelines or whatever, that would be a part of the universe too. There is no going to another universe. You may go to another dimension of reality, another galaxy, an alternate timeline, whatever, but there is no outside of the universe. The universe is all encompassing. If a deity existed, let's say the Christian God existed, and this is the one that I get in trouble for the most in terms of other people, if the Christian God existed, he would have to exist within the confines of the universe, because anywhere God is also the universe, meaning that the claim that God exists outside of time, well, time is movement. Movement is time. So if God ever existed at all, he would have to exist within time, which implies a beginning right there. And anything subject to a beginning is almost certainly subject to some kind of end at some point. And even if he were to go on for ever, for like the rest of time, Anywhere time isn't, God isn't. Anywhere space isn't, God isn't. Anywhere matter isn't, God isn't. And that incorporates a natural limitation. God has to be made out of energy. In one form or another, he is made out of some kind of matter, dark matter, antimatter, etc. This would mean that God would exist very much, whether he be the Christian God or Odin or any other version of any other deity, would have to exist very much in the physical world. That means part of the natural world. There is no supernatural. Similarly, if there were any kind of bioelectrical echoes saved from our consciousness that exist outside of our bodies after our death, if our awareness from some sort of quantum glitch or some other aspect is saved in some dimension of reality, that dimension is also a part of the natural world. This would mean that ghosts and goblins and other dimensions and gods and etc. would not be supernatural phenomena. Now you might say this is just semantics. Okay, it's just semantics to say that these things aren't supernatural. Supernatural is just a term to say that they are extraordinary, that they're just something we don't encounter very often in our day-to-day life. Except for the cutesy pie people that are like, oh, Jesus isn't everything. But what they mean to say is that we don't regularly encounter angels on, like, the daily. Here's the thing about that. Alright? It doesn't matter, because supernatural is used as an excuse. Why can't we understand where God comes from or what his grand plan is? It's because God is supernatural. Why can't we understand why all of these different things are wrong from the Bible? There's so much conflicting information, so many things that don't make any sense in regular Christianity. There's so many things that don't make sense in pretty much all organized religions. And we're not allowed to question those things because that's questioning the supernatural. Dum-dum, it's not meant for humans to understand God or God's plan. But that doesn't hold up to any logical scrutiny. You cannot think about God and be a Christian. Thinking about God is like the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not think about God, or the Bible, or any spiritual anything. If you closely examine or take apart faith, the Christians will claim that it is no longer faith. You cannot test God. This is bad. This is really bad. In the East, this kind of thing would be laughed at. Eastern spiritualism has always invited a lot of questioning. Hindus can make up new gods or not believe in whatever gods they wish to. The idea of telling an individual practitioner of anything that they had to or couldn't believe in a certain god would be ridiculous. How are they supposed to reach enlightenment if they're not allowed to customize their beliefs? Telling a Hindu that they had to or couldn't believe in certain gods would be nonsense. Similarly, Buddhists thrive off of argument. Buddhist monks have to argue. In fact, it's a part of their training to argue with their master and their fellow students about points of philosophy on which they disagree. Handling these arguments is supposed to help them with the tension between all human beings. This is a big deal. Argument is a part of Eastern philosophies, and back in the Roman and Greek days, it used to be a part of Western philosophies as well. There were regular debates on matters of spirituality, and these spiritualities were all the richer for these debates. But these debates are not found in modern Christendom, and they're not found in Muslim beliefs either. In fact, they're not found in pretty much of any of the Abrahamic faiths. You are not allowed to take apart faith. This anti-thinking, anti-logic attitude is bad. Not just for spirituality, but I think for the thinking man in general. If you want to preserve your consciousness, your awareness, your freedom of thought, you almost have to annex yourself from these belief systems, because they do not invite you to look at them with the same level of awareness that you're trying to build up towards the rest of reality. The same skills that allow you to examine a butterfly's flight or the way that the human heart works are the same skills that you would use to examine the universe. Something you just can't apply to reality if you can't question the maker of reality. I'd like to use this example. I'm going to tell you a story. Alright? And I think that this story will pretty distinctly make my point. You're walking down the road and you arrive at a cliff. That cliff has a giant chasm between you and the other side. But it's not so bad, because there's 2 bridges across the chasm. Now this chasm is so deep and so wide that if you were to fall, you would surely die. You would hit the rocky bottom far below you, nothing to brace you, no water to fall into, no foliage to break your fall. Definitely, sure death. But it's okay. There are 2 bridges and 2 bridge makers beside their bridges. So, you're trying to make up your mind about which bridge you should take. The first bridge maker pops up. He's like, let me tell you about my bridge. And you say, cool, I'm trying to make up my mind about which bridge to take. Why don't you guys tell me about him? So the first guy is like, well, my bridge, I built it with a lot of love. It's great. It's awesome. The thing is, you gotta have faith that it'll carry you all the way to the other side. 100% faith. But if you have 100% faith, it will 100% work for you. And you say, well, how am I supposed to have 100% faith when I have not yet crossed the bridge? And he said, well, if you doubt the bridge even a little bit, okay, it might not work for you. If you have even a little bit of doubt in your heart, it might not work for you. You have to have 100% faith. And another thing is, before you cross the bridge, you have to thank me for making the bridge and mean it. Thank me for making your way across and mean it. That's it. You just have to mean what you say about thanking me 100%, and you have to have 100% faith that the bridge will work, but it's completely stable. I'm telling you that right now. I've crossed it a million times. It's completely stable. So you say to the first bridge maker, well, would you be willing to cross the bridge with me? And he said, well, if you saw me cross the bridge, that would be me proving to you that the bridge works. And if I prove to you that the bridge works, then you don't really have faith that the bridge is going to work. So because of that, I can't actually show me crossing the bridge to you, because that will make it so that you know that the bridge will work instead of having faith. This is a faith-powered bridge. It's the only one of its kind. It's amazing. So you go to the second bridge maker, and he says, listen, before I explain my bridge to you, I'm going to walk out on the bridge. When I'm in the middle of the bridge and you can still hear me, I'll tell you how the bridge works. So he walks out to the middle of the bridge, his bridge that he made, and he says, this is the physics behind how the bridge works. It's a suspension bridge. It has cable that's approximately this strong. It ropes from this end to this end. It's able to support a maximum amount of weight of this much. This is the design philosophy I employed. It'll stay stably all the way across. And if you want, I'll walk across the bridge with you. I 100% guarantee you that this bridge will work. And if, for whatever reason, it doesn't support our weight, I am willing to die with you. I am willing to fall down with you. I know that this bridge will work, and I am willing to prove to you that the bridge will work. In fact, the second bridge maker walks all the way to the other end of the chasm, and then he walks all the way back. See, it supports my weight just fine. You can go across by yourself, or I can come with you. It's up to you. So, you have to decide, which of these 2 bridge makers' bridges are you going to use? Bridge number 1, the faith power bridge, or bridge number 2, the knowing bridge, the bridge that the bridge builder and you both know will work? Which are you going to choose? The logical choice is the knowing bridge. Because if your thanks is sincere with the one guy at all, and you're thanking him for something he hasn't even given you yet, you could die on his bridge, so it's hard to thank him for something you don't really know that he did. Did he make a successful bridge? You don't know. You haven't crossed it yet. So if you get the thanks wrong, you're screwed. And if you get the believing in the bridge part wrong, you're screwed. But this other guy's bridge, he has requested nothing from you, and the bridge is guaranteed to work regardless of what you think of it. And he's even willing to stake his own life, his own career as a bridge builder, by walking the bridge with you. And he did explain to you how it works. Obviously, you go on the knowing bridge instead of the faith bridge. This is the reason why I am no longer a Christian. This is the reason why I am no longer a believer in the supernatural. Because anything that is powered by faith is wildly inconsistent. Now, you might say, well, wait, do you not believe in anything? Well, of course I believe in things. There's plenty of scientific facts and theories that have not yet been 100% proven without the shadow of a doubt, okay? And not only that, but I believe in people. I'm an optimist. I believe that human beings are going to work this whole situation out and we're going to have a wonderful future. I believe in myself and that I'm going to make something of myself. I believe in my family members. There's a lot of things I believe in that I have faith in. But also, in those things that I believe in are kernels of knowledge, things that I know to be true. So if my faith, for some reason, isn't rewarded, at least I know enough about the things I believe in that I'm able to back them up with what I know. I'll use this analogy. I have a best friend, right? And when I first met my best friend, I trusted him. We had conversations together, and over time we built up trust with one another. Since then, every time me and my best friend have needed one another for anything, we've dropped everything to help one another. It's a beautiful friendship. It's one of my greatest accomplishments in life is that I've managed to create several friendships like this, where we will drop anything for each other, but especially my best friend. Me and him will drop anything for each other. So I know myself as his friend. I know if he calls on me and says, brother, we have a war to fight. We have something we got to take on together. He knows I'll drop whatever the fuck I'm doing, and I'll be over there in a jiffy to help out. And similarly, I know that if I'm ever in need of assistance, in any kind of assistance, that he'll drop everything and come help me. Now, that knowledge, that knowing each other is better than believing in each other. It's better than having faith in each other. It's better than trusting each other. You know, we still have, I'm sure, trust and faith and belief in certain aspects because, you know, you can never know somebody 100%. So we believe that nothing that's going on in the shadows will ever screw up our friendship or whatever. And even if it could, we believe we'd be able to pull through and forgive one another. But all that believing is backed up by a whole bunch of knowing, a whole bunch of testing. We've been on the bridge and crossed the chasm together. Okay? Knowing is better than belief. Knowing reality, knowing yourself, knowing magic is better than thinking you do. You know, and a belief that it doesn't allow you to test it isn't a belief really. It's ignorance. Let's say you have a guru, and this guru says, I have practiced the ways of meditation, the ways of peace, the ways of the spirit, and I can teach you how to make your way in the world. I can teach you how to become a success, how to feel better. You know, basically he's promising to enlighten you, to embolden you. You know, by whatever definition you hold to. So, at first, you just trust this teacher. This teacher is teaching you. He's teaching you his methods, but you don't know whether or not they work. So you try one of his methods, a breathing technique in your regular life to calm you down. And you breathe the way he told you to. And you pull off the technique successfully, and it calms you down. Then you use another one of his techniques that's supposed to build your confidence. And that night, you know, you use his technique, the way he told you to, the things that he told you to image, the way that he told you to breathe. And you ask a girl out, and usually you're very awkward with girls, but this time, his confidence technique gave you the self, you know, awareness to be able to talk to the girl successfully. And you get a phone number. Now, even if the rest of the guru's bullshit isn't true, at least he was right in saying that he'd help you out in life. Because a few of his techniques proved to be right. And he says he has a lot more to teach you, so you have no reason to doubt the guru. You still have faith because you're still making an educated guess. You're still hypothesizing that he might have more to teach you. You're still believing. But that belief is backed up by knowledge. And you know, because of how humble the guru is, that if for whatever reason you don't understand a lesson or something doesn't work, you're able to question him. Why didn't this work for me? Am I just not meant for this technique, or was it taught to me wrong, or did I not understand it? You're allowed to ask the man questions, all right? If you apply the scrutiny of having to back things up to your fellow human beings, why wouldn't you have that same scrutiny with a being more powerful than you? When you're a little child, you ask your parents a billion questions. Mommy, why is the sky blue? Mommy, why is 2 plus 2 equal 4 and not fish? Mommy, a bunch of stupid shit. Okay? But if you have a parent that's not willing to answer any of your questions, you wouldn't be able to trust them at all. That trust in your mother and father to take care of you comes from the fact that they know more than you, and you know they know more than you because they answer your stupid questions. God is like a neglectful parent. He is completely unwilling to engage. We don't know the plan. We don't know what's going on. We don't know anything. So if you believe in God, then you believe that the universe is ran by this neglectful dick who isn't willing to answer any of his children's questions in any meaningful way. And you might say, well, but he does in the Bible. But the Bible even says God is mysterious. God lies to you. God doesn't, God has this master plan, but doesn't want to tell you what it is. God is testing you, but under parameters of which you do not know. This God guy that 87% of the population believes in, and for whom my people, magic people, were burned in the fire. We were burned at the stake, because our beliefs made them question theirs, right? The mystical community was burned and hunted for these guys who can't even ask their heavenly father a stupid question. He's so fragile that to poke him offends him desperately. He can't compete with you on an emotional level. So if you believe in one other, heavenly deity besides him, if you were to believe in Yahweh and Odin, oh, well, Yahweh is too jealous of a god for that, so he'll strike you down. You must not have any idols besides me. This deity is a dick. This would be like a dad getting mad because you say that you love your mom. You say, Mommy, I love you. Thank you for the pancakes. And your father goes, you shouldn't love her. I paid for the pancakes. What a terrible, shitty fucking guy, right? You're saying like, oh, thank you for the wisdom, Odin. And Yahweh's in the background building some lightning bolts to just fuck you up with. I invented Odin. If Yahweh was a real deity, if let's say all the deities are real, Yahweh would never be invited to any party involving any gods ever. He's such a dick. I don't want to shit on the Bible, right? That's not what this series is about. I did that in the past with Dr. Making Stuff. I had a bunch of videos about atheism, and I talked about the interpersonal emotional reasons and the logical reasons why you shouldn't believe in God. This is more the emotional stuff and not so much of the logical things. But it's such bunk. I'm sorry. The Bible is just thoroughly. It's a trash spiritual, book, and I'm not even going to get into how badly translated it is because I think I've made my point about Christianity. The same problems crop up with most modern religions that are monotheistic. So I'm not going to talk about the Jews and the Muslims individually because essentially they both believe in add-ons to what is essentially the Bible. They might as well be Christians because the beliefs are so similar. So I'm not going to even spare a thought about that aspect of things. Back to the supernatural. I feel like I've gotten off track. I wanted to talk about faith because faith is often used as an excuse for why believing in the supernatural is okay. Suffice to say that I do not believe in the supernatural. I believe in the natural. I have faith that the natural world and that the universe is all that is because the universe is all that is. That's its definition. So the universe supersedes everything. Even if Asgard is floating out there somewhere with Odin and all the rest, the universe is still bigger than Odin. Okay? So we should probably talk now. If I don't believe in supernature, what do I believe in? What does magic do if not supernatural stuff? I hinted at this in the last video when I talked about the fact that changing your perception of reality will also change the way you react to things, and this can change your external reality. But I'll go one step further. Magic is the interplay between dreams and reality, between the inner and outer. It's the transformative nature of taking things from within you and making them into things outside of you, and taking things from outside of you and internalizing them inside of you. okay? It's the interplay between the in and out. Magic is the connection between the conscious world and the unconscious world, you know? So there's a lot of interesting things you can do. Meditation can control body temperature. Hypnosis can control entire blocks of people. The right words at the right time through politics, philosophy, art, etc. can change the world. You know, there weren't a lot of people interested in prosthetics before the movie Star Wars came out. It was considered like kind of a B field of science. But a bunch of kids saw Luke Skywalker's hand and they're like, "Oh my god, I want to make robot. I want to make robot hands so badly. Wouldn't it be so cool to like repair somebody's arm like that? If I ever lost my arm or my leg or whatever, wouldn't it be cool to have a robot one? Darth Vader is so neat. We should be able to do that for people. In our world, he'd just be a shitty Iron One, but in their world, he can run around." That piece of art changed the world. That's what magic is. It's reality is both subjective and objective. It's objective outside of you, but it's subjective inside of you. And you can temporarily, by way of effort, whether that be ritual effort or whether that be artistic effort or scientific effort, through human effort, through human awareness, it is possible to slowly but surely alter reality using your natural subjectivity, your natural individuality. Stretching your individual essence to affect things both within and without is the nature of magic. All right, so that's what I believe in. It is possible for the actions of one man to create a ripple effect that makes hundreds, if not thousands, of men and women very happy, very joyful, and possibly even bettered for the experience of having known that man. You becoming your best self will have an echo throughout the rest of the world. Such is the nature of magic. Magic is woven into the tapestry of all things. And so, like I said before, I believe it to be a core dimension of reality itself. And remember, a dimension of reality, a piece of reality, not superseding reality, okay, but a key part of it, which is all that any spiritual discipline can ask of its ki, kai, soul, mana, force, whatever you call magic. Maybe you call magic God. Maybe you think that the source of all things is God. There is that line from the Bible that God is a part of each one of us. If that's how you have to think about it to channel your inner magic, that inner magic is part of a deity, then awesome, great. If that's what works for you, great. I'm not shitting on Christianity in the sense that I'm saying that Christians can't make good mystics. In fact, I would love to see more Christian mystics. The reason I talk about Christianity is because as a belief system, it has made a nasty habit of punishing human qualities. It's had a habit of punishing things like multiculturalism, different philosophies, different religions, different gods, different people. It's had a history of kind of fucking up the spiritual landscape and separating people from the magic inside of them. Separating them from the earth. Another thing is worship. I want to talk about this briefly. Okay, worship in rituals and stuff like that. So if I had to perform a spell where praising a god is necessary. Now, normally that's not the kind of magic I do. I don't do a lot of drawing circles and lighting candles and that kind. My thing is much more martial arts based, Eastern mysticism, meditation, that kind of thing. But I am delving more and more into spellcraft as time goes on. I have used a couple of actual spells and made them work. So, and I'll talk about that in a future episode. But if I had to invoke a deity, what I would do is look for what does that deity mean for me? How does that deity, that god, resonate for me? So Odin represents the willingness to sacrifice in order to obtain wisdom, right? The willingness to experience pain and hardship in order to obtain tried and true wisdom. An unflinching resolve to find the truth in the world. I can see those qualities within myself. They live within me. So when I worship Odin, I'm using that as a fast track to those living parts of myself that I'm trying to access in the spell, in the meditation. So Odin is not a being out there in Asgard. He's not an actual alien floating out in outer space. He is a living, breathing part of me. I am inspired by stories about Odin, and Odin is cool as a character because of the fact that his character grips me in some way. The same way Batman might be interesting to a kid. The same way, superheroes work. If something inspires you, if something lights up your imagination, it's because it's resonating with you in some way. So, appreciating a part of yourself that is likened to a greater being than yourself is the way that most magical worship works. And this term worship, we think, oh, pray and believe, but what we actually mean is appreciate. Appreciating that quality that the god brings to reality. And you can appreciate that quality in other people, you can appreciate that quality in yourself, and you can appreciate that quality in the external reality. I appreciate that there is a truth to be discovered. I appreciate that sacrifice is necessary to find that truth. All right? If all of the answers were laid bare before us, we would all be one person. It's the things that we know and the things that we don't know from our own perception that create truth and illusion. And so it makes this quest necessary. And I appreciate that struggle because it creates meaning and flavor. You need shadow to make the light create shapes and colors and places. I appreciate that sacrifice is necessary for truth. I appreciate that there are people out there willing to make those sacrifices, whether that be time or money or hardship, in order to tell the truth to the rest of us. Those people are inspiring. If Odin is the comic book character that has that superpower times 10, then Odin himself is worth appreciating. I use Odin as an example because he's relatively well known, but you could fill in anybody. Luke Skywalker, anybody. There's no reason why you can't use fictional deities in your spells as well, because as long as that thing resonates with you, as long as it lives within you, then there is no reason not to be capable of channeling it. You don't have to believe the thing really exists, the god, the alien, the whatever. You don't have to believe it really exists in order to channel its living energy inside of you. So spells that require worship, I just find the living deity inside or outside, and I have appreciation for that, which is not the same thing as believing that that deity is a real person. Okay. I also, like I said before, don't invoke deities very often in my practice unless I know a lot about that deity. If I haven't researched that deity and I come across a new spell and it says, oh, you have to pray to this guy, I don't unless I've done extensive research, and I would recommend that for any new magical practitioner. Before you invoke ancient words and ancient eldritch gods and whatever, learn what those guys and language actually do and mean. Because if they're on the off chance that there is actually this dream layer, this zeitgeist element to reality where cosmically the things that you think and say magically actually do have some sort of physical effect, would you want to piss the wrong god off or make the wrong sacrifice, not knowing that you'll actually be held to task by some sort of trippy dream reality that could potentially exist? It is possible that some of the more supernatural aspects of magic may exist, but just not as supernatural aspects. They would exist as another dimension of reality. If so, it's best just to be respectful of those forces we're trying to channel. And even if not, it's always good to know what you're talking about before you just start spouting gibberish. It's always good to be like, okay, I know what deity I'm invoking. Anyways, this has been the Blue Wizard. See you next time on Soul Arrow, where we will be discussing how do I practice magic? Awesome. So we'll be talking about the spells I've created, the kind of meditations I do, and what effect being a magician has had in my personal life. Awesome. Great. That's a cool subject for next time. All right. See you then. Peace. Holy crap. Man, this video is long. Oh, and I didn't do the thing. Fuck. And I hope these vibrations have found you well.